Hey everybody, James Cannell here. I'm with Will and Sagar, and they are two realtors who are relatively new to the industry, but they're producing at such a high level that I wanted to have a conversation with them about how they've gotten their career launched, because it's actually quite impressive. So for clients that are listening, you're going to learn about what a realtor is doing in this new market to help you guys have great client experiences. And for other realtors that are listening, there's a lot of really good bits of information here about some of the questions you might be having that relate to how to get a career started from zero, as well as the decision between going at it solo or potentially partnering up with somebody or even joining a team. So these two have partnered up. They formed a team of two. They've been working at it for a few years, and now they're ready to start scaling their team. We've had some really fascinating conversations about how they intend to do that. And one of the things I love talking with these guys about is they're from the next generation of real estate. You know, I've been in the business for about 15 years. I've got a lot of industry knowledge about how I do things, but they're implementing a lot of new technologies, and they're much more cutting edge from a tech perspective on how they're approaching the business. So it's really fascinating to see how they're approaching real estate. I think there's a lot of learning there for that. So Will and Sagar, I'd love it if you could introduce yourselves to everybody listening.
I'll let you go first, Sagar.
No problem. My name's Sagar Desor. I've been in the industry for about 2.5 years with Will, and I basically work a lot more on the sales side of things. That's, dealing with buyers, dealing with sellers, dealing with the objections, basically from the start to the finish on the sales side. That's basically what I do here at New Realty Group.
Yeah, it's awesome to see how you guys have partnered up, because when you're a realtor, I think a lot of things that most realtors don't consider is that it really is getting into a business. There's a marketing component, there's a sales component, there's a business systems component, and to have all of those skill sets in one individual can be quite tricky, which is why the team model has become so popular. So Sagar's being quite humble. He's an incredible salesperson. He's very, very talented at communication. He's closing a lot of deals. And that's why he is so successful so early on, because he's focusing on what he's good at. Whereas Will has come in with the other portions of the business. So Will, what part of this partnership do you take care of?
Yeah, I have a marketing background. So I used to work in a marketing agency, managed clients, ran ads anywhere from selling cannabis to daycares. I've done it all. And now jumping into real estate, I've basically taken everything I know about business, systems, technology, online marketing, which I think is, it's been due time that we really push the online wave in the real estate space, which is such a traditionally old industry and things are done old ways. And I think that's why we named our business New Realty, because we're trying to bring the new way to do real estate into the world. And I think it's been fun, and just playing with marketing, and one of the best industries I think in the world I love it.
Yeah, so guys, notice how they both have very different skill sets and they're coming together to build a partnership. When I started in real estate, the team model wasn't really that well established. So, every realtor was a solo realtor, with the exception of the odd couple that were, partnered up, but that was almost to cover each other off. When one person was busy with one client, somebody could take another client. These two have taken it to the point where they've created a partnership around complementary skill sets. And so guys, I think one of the things that people need to hear is just how successful you've been right out of the gate, because it's really impactful to realize what's possible as a new agent if you do the right things with the right amount of dedication. So without giving away like the minutia of the numbers, what are you guys at for production, give or take?
Well, right now, on our very, very first year of starting our business, like I mentioned earlier, for me, I'm really, really good at sales. I'm great at communicating. I'm great at building that rapport. I'm great at making clients feel like they've known me for years. Whereas Will's expertise is with the lead generation, building the systems, and even overlooking and coaching me as an agent so that I'm on track and being held accountable to my numbers. So in our first year, with that model in mind, I produced somewhere around $240,000 to $250,000 in GCI. That was as a solo agent with just Will's support, just the two of us. Fast forward to the second year, Will and I implemented a new ISA. So she's somebody who would help me book appointments. We hired someone to help me with the paperwork, and we're able to more than double our business in our second year. So we finished the year just actually around 450 to, I believe, 470,000 in commissions. Now we just started off 2.5 years into the business, and we're well on our way to beat that goal and a little bit more. So we're very excited to be here. Obviously, with James's support, we're now looking to build out our team, and we just couldn't be more grateful for that.
Yeah, it's been a great brainstorm, guys, because I'm learning a lot about the technology of real estate that's being used basically on the cutting edge. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a CRM, we've got digital signature, we've got document management, we've got a really good core set of technologies, but what these guys are doing is really like using AI to create some automations and workflows within their CRM is really impressive. Now, for the realtors listening, if that sounds like a bunch of, kind of pie in the sky ideas, then I hate to tell you, but you're probably really behind in terms of what you need in terms of tools to be a successful realtor. Because at the bare minimum, you should be using CRM technology. You should be having a document management program, even as a solo agent. So let's kind of rewind though. These guys are producing about $500,000 a year in sales volume in their second year, which is fantastic. I mean, that's putting them right near the very top of the industry in terms of new agents. Like that's got to be, top 1% for agents that are in their first 2 years. So there's a lot to listen to and a lot to learn from these guys. So what I want to ask next is what were some of the key things that you did? Like, let's take your day. Let's break it down. What are key activities? Like a lot of agents run into this place where they start and they're panicking. What do I do? Who do I talk to? How do I fill my day? Fast forward 3 months and all of a sudden they've got 60, 70 hours of the week where they're feeling super overwhelmed and they don't even know what to do with their time. So allocating time in the right space to do the right activities that will have a positive impact on your result is huge. So from a sales activity, you guys have basically taken that entire bundle of tasks and then divided it out into 2 people. So Sagar, what are the key things that you're doing that are contributing to that result in terms of time allocation?
Yeah. So, when it comes to time allocation as a realtor, there's a million things to do in a day. You got to call people, you've got to do meeting people, you've got to do the marketing, you got to, build systems, and there's so much to do in your day. And what I found with Will and I is if we don't focus our energy on the activities that are the critical tasks that help you produce income, you're cutting yourself short. So Will and I have an acronym made for this. It's called PLAN. It's from Tom Ferry, if anyone knows him. PLAN, as an agent, every single day, all you focus on is P stands for prospect. If you're not prospecting as an agent, you're not reaching out to new agents, you're not reaching out to clients, you're not going to have any business. L stands for lead follow-up. When you talk to people, you need to follow up with them consistently in order to be generating more income down the road. A stands for appointments. Every single day, you've got to have a goal of how many appointments do I want to set and how many appointments do I want to meet. It's simple as that. You don't need to overcomplicate the business. Focus on the direct income producing activities, which again is prospect, lead follow-up, book appointments, and 4th stands for N is negotiation. Obviously, when you book the appointment, you're going to eventually negotiate offers, which lead to more closed transactions. I know that was a lot of information there, James. But again, what I learned early on with Will and I is you just don't want to spread yourself too thin by working on so many different activities. Keep it as simple as you can with those 4 things and have a goal for each. If you do that, you'll be successful.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good quality information that Sagar put in there. And so one of the things that I want to point out is he mentioned Ferry coaching. Educating yourself is an essential part of becoming a realtor. Whether you're learning from a well-established coaching program, like, 2 of the most old school ones in the entire business, or the Ferry coaching program, or Richard Robbins. We know lots of successful realtors who've been through that. Or you're utilizing other coaching programs through, perhaps your brokerage has an education program. If you're on a team, you're going to be learning from the team leader. But no matter what, these guys, right from day one, invested in the education to learn how to do what they needed to do. So that's huge. We're talking to 2 of the most successful realtors in the Western Canadian market in their first 2 years. The first thing they talked about was getting educated and investing in that coaching. That's massive. Second thing I heard you say, was the first 3 parts of your acronym, PLA, basically talking to people about real estate. I think that's something that is a huge shocker to people when they get into the real estate business, because you watch realtor shows on TV, and all realtor shows on TV show you is the cool part, going for showings, doing negotiations. You know, it's kind of like watching sports where you only watch the football game on Sunday. Nobody watches people working out in the gym or practice. But that's that part of real estate where the vast majority, close to 100% of your time as a new realtor, is basically just spent talking to people on the phone and seeing if they want to meet up with you and talk about real estate. So that's something that's like, in my opinion, one of the pieces of the secret sauce for why Sagar has been so successful, is because he's not procrastinating on that activity. He's not worried about it when people don't want to meet with him. You know, as they say in sales, there's no real fear of rejection, because they're not rejecting him as a person. They're just not interested in a meeting. Okay, great. Let's see who is interested in a meeting. That mindset is critical to actually being as successful as these guys are. So, you know, for those of you listening who are realtors thinking like, okay, there's got to be a better way. What if I just make a clever social media post and then somebody automatically writes a contract with me? Well, remember, even if you write the world's best social media post and 15 people send you a DM, you still have to call them and schedule time to talk to them about real estate. There's really no substitution for having those prospecting conversations. And I'll tell you, these guys brand new to the business, rewind the clock 15 years. When I started in the business, I had a notebook full of names and phone numbers of people that I knew in contact lists. And I was doing the same thing. I was calling people, I was following up with them, I was talking about real estate, I was booking meetings. The difference today is just how sophisticated the technology has gotten. So the core fundamentals are the same. Talk to a lot of people about real estate, make sure you're following up with them. But the systems and the technology on how to meet those people and follow up with those people has gotten so much more sophisticated, which is where Will comes into the picture. So Will, give us a breakdown of just a description of like where technology is at in real estate. And for your old school realtors, this might melt your brain a little bit, especially if you're barely using a CRM or you kind of like manage things with a notebook and an Outlook. And for new realtors that are listening to this, or realtors that are, you know, in the middle of their career like me, who are looking to get more tech enabled, this is some very, very powerful information on what the technology can do that you're probably already using and just not using the functions of. So Will, give us a breakdown of what you're up to.
Yeah, if I break down really what I spend a lot of my time in the business is, it's building leverage. And I know we talk about the book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent all the time, and how it talks about leads, listing, and leverage. So leads is something that really, at a certain point, once you build good enough systems, you can automate a consistent, predictable stream of leads. So that already eliminates a big problem in the business. And then leverage is another great thing we could do too, where there's a really famous entrepreneur, and he talks about how there's 4 different ways we can leverage. We can use other people's money, we can use other people's time, we can use content, and we can always use code. So I'm a big fan of using code, content, and other people's time to really leverage our business. So I'm also a big fan of an acronym that one of my mentors came up with me, is AED, which is automate, eliminate, and delegate. So first thing I do in the business is, when I see a task that keeps getting repetitive, I look at it and say, can I automate this? And there's a lot of great tools out there like Zapier, where you don't have to be a software developer like me, where you can code things. You can literally go on tools like Zapier and automate very redundant things like reporting, certain aspects of writing offers. Like here in your Realty group, we have a buyer writing offer process where somebody can write an offer in less than 5 minutes just by uploading an MLS sheet and having it automatically sent to the client with all the details. And it's only getting, every year that goes by, I look back at it and see that there's ways I can make it even faster than before. So that's just one aspect of the business where I want to automate things. Of course, delegating things is very, very important. Like the first hire in your business should always be an assistant to really take care of all those meticulous things. And luckily, I think with me and Sagar, I kind of play that assistant role, but eventually ended up automating a lot of things that the assistant does, which is why I see a lot of real estate teams that will hire, bring in 10 people, when really you could probably do half of the stuff they're doing with code and automating all of it and really running a more lean business, which I'm a big fan of. At the end of the day, I want to have good profit. And I think anybody who comes into this business needs to be really mindful that Glenda Baker said, this is a business that will $29.99 you to death, where you just add on. So you got to be smart with what you leverage.
Couple of really good takeaways from what Will was saying too. So number one, if you don't even know what Zapier is, again, this is a shout out to all of the realtors who are kind of my vintage and older, who are like, I don't need that tech stuff. Well, I can tell you, when they said they can go from inputted MLS number to fully filled out offer to the client in 5 minutes, if that's not how smooth things are running for you, or if you're still, clickety weighing on a PDF manually, okay, this is a bit of a wake up call that there is technology available that vastly accelerates the way that you do business. The second piece of that is that, Will's talking about taking the time to program this stuff in for both lead generation and sales automation. That's called working on your business. And then that's an important part about being in the business of real estate. So again, we see these real estate shows, you think you're just constantly showing houses and writing offers. Well, you're building a practice, you're building a business, and incorporating this stuff into your business is essential. So that's one of the things that I think has really formed a great partnership between Will and Sagar, is that Will's working on the business constantly, Sagar's working in the business doing deals. If you're going to be doing both, it's kind of that awareness that from time to time, you're going to have to spend half a day, Google what Zapier is, then watch a bunch of YouTube videos about how to use Zapier, then set up a Zapier account, then play around programming a few automations. It's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, and you're not going to be talking to your clients. But once you program that, it'll speed up everything you do for the rest of time. So it's really important to work on the business as well. Now, again, these two have formed a partnership where, you can see Will's working on the business and making Sagar's job easier and easier as an agent in the field. But I want to ask you guys both, from your perspective, you could have each become an individual agent. And so for some people out there saying, okay, well, by my math, if Sagar did 500,000 of commission, that means that if they're equal partners, Will's getting half of that. That's the same logic of people who are thinking about joining a team that has a split. Well, if I do a commission, I give a portion of it to the team. So maybe you guys can talk about why it actually makes sense and has helped you be more successful to team up, as opposed to trying to do everything we just talked about each by yourself.
Do you want me to start, Will?
Go first, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
For everyone watching this, you might see that, Sagar, you're doing $500,000 in commission. The only reason I'm doing that is because of my business partner, Will. I can tell you guys with confidence right now, if I didn't have Will on our team, I would not be anywhere close to making $500,000 right now. I would be just like any other agent in this industry who just walks around, door knocks, does a few open houses, and hopes somebody calls them. So the way I look at it is, you have to understand that you're not going to be perfect at everything in this business. You're going to be somebody who might be really good at sales. You might be someone who's really good at lead generation. You might be someone who's really good at marketing. Play to your strength and hire around your weakness. If you do that, you're going to have a larger income. And when you have a larger income, why wouldn't you have half of that go to your business partner? The way Will and I look at it is, it's an investment in us so we can have a brighter future tomorrow. That's my short answer for you, James. I hope that helps.
That's a terrific answer. And I'd love to hear Will's perspective on the question of, why does it make sense to partner up and share the profit instead of trying to keep it all for yourself?
Yeah, I think in entrepreneurship culture, especially in the past few years, as it's gotten more popular, people love the whole lone wolf entrepreneurship. And, I think it's a little egotistical, because I believe it's Peter Drucker, the Harvard MBA professor. He said that the greatest things in life are achieved in teams. And, if you look at any billion-dollar company, like look at Apple, for example, people see Steve Jobs, but a lot of people don't see Steve Wozniak on the back end actually creating everything that Steve Jobs put to light. If you look at the biggest companies in the world, everything is achieved in teams. So if you go by yourself, you can get pretty far. And we've met a lot of realtors who can get really far by themselves. But when we talk to the biggest realtors in the world, and I mean, take this out of real estate, just any business leader in the world, a lot of them aren't necessarily, wickedly talented or smart. One thing they're all amazing at is management. And by management, I mean that they know how to connect the right people. And I'm going back to like classic business books. I believe the red one, where it talks about buses, where, a business is a bus and it's all about putting the right people in the right seats. And I think what me and Sagar have is, we've built a really great bus where, he's like the engine and I'm the chassis. And together, we're way better than somebody who's just an engine trying to drag themselves along. So yeah, people don't realize that it's not a sum game. It's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, where when you have people in collaboration, there's an exponential effect of that comes together. And the more and more people you add to that pie, it's always going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So just study the biggest companies and you'll see that everything is built in team. There's no billionaire out there who did it by himself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And that when I switched from being a solo agent to starting to grow a team, I experienced very similar results where my income was staying the same and growing a little bit, but instead of me being this, chest pounding rock star, work all the time agent, I went from working like 70, 80 hours a week to having a normal life, working about 30 to 40, sometimes 50 hours a week, and still earning the really nice income that you get to earn as a realtor. So I can definitely relate to that, because it also freed up my time to do the stuff that I really love about the industry, because it's such a diverse industry. Remember, everybody listening, you're not just a salesperson. You're a business entrepreneur who has everything from the lead generation to the systems to the in-person relationships to maintain. So doing that all yourself can be quite a bit. There's a lot of successful realtors that do it, but the ones who are doing it at scale, I find, are teaming up, which is a trend we're seeing in the industry. There's a phrase out there that collaboration is the new currency. That's one of the unofficial catchphrases of my brokerage, actually, is that collaboration is the new currency, because working together in a team setting really allows everybody to flourish in their strengths. So it's awesome that you guys figured that out right from the get-go, because oftentimes people that collaborate try it on their own first and then find their way to a team. So, you guys mentioned the book Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which, I mean, that described the team model 20 years ago. So, I mean, shout out to Gary Keller for being such a visionary to see that this was the model that the real estate industry was trending towards 20 years ago. And I feel like we're now just catching up. So from a team's perspective, what I think a question that a lot of new agents have, and even agents who have been on their own for a while, is, again, just struggling with, well, I'm doing a certain amount of deals, or I feel like I want to keep 100% of that profit. But why would somebody want to join, a team like mine, or a team like the one that you guys are joining? Like what makes that work for an agent who wants to be considering solo versus team?
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one, because I've been talking with a lot of agents lately, and I think a lot of people have that misconception that, oh, I'm going to be paying half my split. I don't like it. I'm going to go solo. And it's a big blind spot, because they don't realize that I still think to this day, this industry is secretive. I think a big challenge that I've found coming from a different industry where, there's systems and processes, documentation, a lot of mastermind groups that are open to everyone. I think in this industry, it's almost like, still to this day, if you want to go work with the best, a lot of people will say, if you want access to all my stuff, you got to be on my team, and I'm going to take half your split. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people get stuck. Like they don't realize that if you found and that's the reason why the rate of failure in this industry is so high, is because people just don't know where the knowledge is. They don't know where to find it. They go to any team, any brokerage, and hope that they can figure it out. And they don't realize what they're stepping into, that this is a business. A lot of people don't realize that, like you said, James, it's not just a salesperson job. You are running a business, and there is so much knowledge that you need to know. And I think what's happening is the team model is really lifting the door to that, is that there's cloud brokerages that are now finding ways for people to expand that knowledge at scale, where you can then almost like monetize your knowledge if your knowledge is actually good. So I think right now the industry is still really secretive, but we're in that process of starting to see that failure rate is going to start going down, because the knowledge is becoming more openly available to people, which is what this industry needs. Is that we don't need any more teams that hide their knowledge behind doors, because that ruins the consumer. That's so unfair to the marketplace. Where now that we have teams and brokerages that are creating ways where it says, hey, release the floodgates, let's create good realtors, let's create this industry and build up our reputation, because salespeople don't have a good reputation. Like, that's just the truth. And realtors too, because not the fault of themselves, but because they've stepped into an industry that is so closed off, so hidden. And now I love the fact that we're seeing these things change, where I just know in 5 to 10 years, this industry is going to be completely different, where the failure rate is way less, because that knowledge is going to be out there. And anybody who wants to become a professional here is going to have that opportunity. So I hope that answered the question, but I got kind of passionate there because I'm really excited to see the doors break down and how all this information come out to realtors and make them better at their job and make it better Canada, make it better states. It's good for the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Will. And I really get inspired talking to guys like you two, because you're doing the team thing right out of the gate, because you understand that the collaboration allows not only from a sharing of knowledge, ideas, and focusing on skill sets perspective that you can build something bigger, better, and faster, but from a lifestyle perspective, you guys are probably a lot more satisfied in your day-to-day workflow because you're doing the stuff you love and you trust someone to do the stuff that you're not as good at. And, like, I think it's a huge wake-up call for people from my vintage and older, where people my age and older wear being too busy like a mark of pride. I can't tell you the number of social media posts from realtors who they've got their laptop next to them poolside in Mexico being like, my office for the week. And I'm like, that's your vacation. That's not supposed to be your office for the week. That's supposed to be your vacation for the week. Or they're like, oh, it's almost like they're complaining / bragging about how late they stayed up and how early they got up to take care of all the details of their business. And, the team model is really showing us that there's a whole other way to do real estate that keeps the client servicing at the highest possible level while still creating a much better quality of life and workflow for the agents. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you guys, was to show all my colleagues out there who are going to watch this, like, hey, you know what? Like, these guys at the very start of their career, they get it. And they're starting off on the right foot in terms of being collaborative. So I'm going to bring the question back though to Sagar of, like, when a new agent, somebody that's just got their license. So if those of you that are watching that have been licensed for a year or less, and you're wondering, hey, is this solo thing for me, or should I explore a team? What are some of the things that they should watch out for in a team to figure out if it's a good fit? We got you muted.
All right. So for me, if you're a brand new agent, first year in the industry, we hear this all the time. Sagar, Will, which team should I join? There's so many of them out there. And I can tell you from experience, if you want to be successful, you have to understand one thing. The team you select, number one, they need to have an abundance of leads. If you are joining a team who are only giving you 1 lead or 2 leads or 5 leads a month, that's not enough for you. That's the way I see it. For Will and I is, when we partnered, I would be given around 50 to 100 leads a month. And I need that abundance of leads so I can keep practicing my shots on those leads. If you join a team where they don't have any leads or the lead generation is very low, you're going to be kind of scratching your fingers thinking, how do I start my business? So number one, join a team that has a good lead flow strategy. Second point I'd share with you are, you would want to look for a team who's very invested in your success. There's a lot of agents out there and team leaders I've met who are very busy themselves because, like James said earlier, they don't necessarily have someone who works on the business and someone who works in the business. So what happens is that team leaders doing all the work and juggling 10 balls at a time. So when you join, unfortunately, you're just another ball in his hand or her hand. That's why when you join a team, find someone who has structure to their day, right? Find a team lead or a team who's really invested in your success. You'll get the training, you'll get the support, and more importantly, you'll have the time from that person to help you become successful. It looks easy on the outside. It looks like James said, you watch Netflix selling sunset. There's a lot of work done behind the scenes. And if you're a new agent, my best advice is join a team who has a support that you need. Why would you try to go out there and figure it out yourself and spend years trying to do that when you could join a team who has the resources, training, support, and all the facility for you to be successful quicker? After that, if you find that, hey, I'm successful, I'm generating income, I'm okay, you can always create your own team at some point. But for the new agents starting, go on a team and then follow that instruction. Oh, you're muted now, James.
Oh my gosh. So there's kind of 2 takeaways that I heard there and that I want to discuss. So the first one is, don't just join a team that, has a super duper mega agent where you kind of are a ball that they're juggling with all their other balls. Like for my team, for example, I'm actually all the way out of production. My only role on my team is to train and support the agents and work on the business. So It's really a high level of support that I'm able to give to the agents on my team. Now, whatever that looks like for the team that you may be particularly interested in joining, make sure you understand what the investment in your development, your training, your education, and your growth is from that team and from the systems within the team. The second thing I heard is, what the lifeblood of the industry is, which is leads. But I really want to dive into leads for a minute, because while leads are the lifeblood of the industry, I see all the time people joining teams with a misconception of exactly what it means to get a lead. What I mean by that is, when you're saying, okay, you want to get 50, 100 leads, that doesn't mean that every person who you are in touch with is ready to buy a house from you right now. Again, we watch these real estate shows and we think, okay, well, here's the name and number. All I need to do is call them and start taking them out for showings. And all of a sudden, ta-da, I'm writing offers. That's really not what that means. A lead is just the contact of someone that you can start the process with. So when I really want to dial in the expectations of everybody who's listening, whether you're going to be a solo agent or whether you're a brand new agent. You are going to talk to a great many number of people, and a very small amount of those people are actually going to become active clients at any point within the next year. And I'm going to slow that down and say it one more time. Within the next year, it's very rare that you call somebody today and you're taking them out for showings tomorrow. There's a very small sliver that are that ready, but the majority of the people you're going to talk to are going to be ready at some point down the road. Now, for those of you guys watching, Will and Sagar actually own a lead generation company. So not only do they generate leads through marketing efforts for their own team, they generate leads for other realtors. By the way, if you're interested in talking to them about that, obviously slide into Will's DMs. He can tell you about the lead generation they do. It's very, they have a great system set up. I'm very impressed by it. But one of the reasons I want to chat with these guys is they don't just have their own little sliver of their own book of business to pull information from. They have thousands of leads that are generated for dozens of realtors to come up with a realistic snapshot of what you can expect if you're starting in the industry. So, Will or Sagar, let's say that you have 100 leads, break it down for me. How many of that 100 will just tell you to F right off? How many of those are kind of sort of interested, but they drop off for whatever reason? How many of them are, kind of maybe sort of kind of ready within the next year? And then how many of them are ready now-ish? That's the first question I have. Break down what that chunk of 100 leads looks like, because so many of the new realtors are brand new realtors in the industry say, okay, I'm just going to start investing in some form of online lead generation or social media lead generation or whatever. So that's going to generate a bunch of leads, but what can you expect from that first chunk of 100?
Yeah, I'll go ahead on this because I could talk about this for an hour. I even have a 20-minute video on my website about this, but majority of online leads are not going to be those silver platter leads that people expect. Like when people hear online lead generation, they think that, oh, this person's going to be one lead and that person's going to say, yes, I already know what I want to buy. Please take me to it. Please take me there and turn me into a commission check. Like that's how people look at online lead generation. That's not the case. Numbers wise, I would say probably less than 1% of them are going to be people who convert like the day of. It happens. Like I have testimonials of a client in Toronto, Derek, where he got his first deal in the first 7 days, which is a wild anomaly. Like most people will not have that happen. Even with Sagar, we've had plenty of deals now at this point in our career where people who come in and you call them in 3 minutes and they buy in like a week. It's going to happen through the factor of consistency, but most leads are going to be 30 to 90 days out. And in some cases, they're going to be 120, in a lot of cases, 200 a year, and sometimes 2 years, sometimes 5 years. Like I'm dealing with clients in Toronto, which is a very expensive market, and it's very heavy on rental. So you're going to have a lot of people who want to get into home ownership, but they don't have good credit. Maybe they don't have a down payment yet. So instantly these people say, oh, I don't like it. And then a year later, that person goes out looking for a realtor, but that person's nowhere to be found. So I think a big part of online lead generation is actually creating systems to stay top of mind with these people, to nurture them. Like a big thing I do for some of my clients is when you have a lead who is financially challenged, don't just say, oh, throw them in the bucket and forget about them. Like help them. Create a guide. How do you get your credit up? How do you save money for a down payment? What are some incentives that the government is giving? These are all things you can give through email, through webinars, through in-person events to nurture them in the long term. Follow them on social media. Run retargeting ads to them for years and years and years so you stay top of mind. Like people don't realize an Instagram story, people always talk about top of mind in real estate, but what better ways to be top of mind than to be consistently posting stories on someone's Instagram where they see your name literally every day for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of their life. So there's so many strategies to nurture these people. And just to close up here, so I digress, that wise majority of people will not be closing within the first 30 days. And you have to be okay with that, because what's the alternative, right? Like,
Yeah, a great point.
door knock.
Yeah. So of those 100 leads, and let me get the question a little more granular. So I'm going to ask Will a question first, and I'm going to ask Sagar. So Will, of those 100 leads, how many of them typically will turn into business within a year?
If you have your systems dialed in, I'd say probably half.
Half. Okay. Half of the leads will turn into business within a year. So that's actually a pretty good conversion ratio, is 50%. Now, what does that mean to have your systems dialed in? How many phone calls do you need to call each of those people? And how many, like how often do you have to try to get in touch with them before they pick up the phone? And then what do you need to do to follow up with them so that you actually are there and top of mind when they're thinking about starting to shop?
Yeah. This is a really important question. And before I answer it, I want to, because some people might hear half and say, this guy's lying, right? But really it is half, because it's this whole concept of when people walk into a car lot and they say, oh, I'm just looking. There is a reason why they are on the car lot. Majority of realtors will say, okay, fine, and then just walk away. If you have your systems dialed in, meaning you have a really, really fast speed to lead, because people online who are at the bottom of the funnel, they want action now. When they go online, they go on Google and they type in best agents in GTA, and they see the first 3 people. If that first person doesn't pick up, do you think they're going to sit there and wait for that person to call them back in a week, or are they going to click on the second person? No, they click on the second person. If that person has a system, AKA they have an assistant who will answer the phone, then they'll get that business opportunity, where the person at the top who does not have their systems dialed in will not. So speed to lead is a big one. I call it the prospecting power couple. You need to have a very, very fast speed to lead, and you need to be contacting people at least 8 to 12 times, because 2% of your deals will be made on the first contact attempt. A lot of realtors start doing online lead generation. They get 100 leads. They call each person one time and then say, oh, the leads suck, it doesn't work. Well, no, that person's probably at work. If they're pre-approved for a house, there's a good chance they're at work at 9 a.m. It's not because the lead sucks. It's because you don't know how to contact them. Like we've had deals between me and Sagar where we send people memes on the phone to get them to reconnect with us. There's so many systems where if you have support, like I know a big thing that me and Sagar struggle with, and we actually have a list in our CRM called already purchased. And when I say half, it's because in the first year of business, Sagar, or first year and a half, I think we had over 300 something people in there, almost 400 people who already purchased.
Yes.
So when I say 400, I'm talking about 400 deals that we did not collect for various reasons. We did not have speed to lead. We did not have average contract attempts. We did not have an ISA team to help us, nor did we have a transaction coordinator could even possibly fulfill all those deals. And we didn't have enough buyer agents to fulfill all those showings that we could have done, which is why when you look at teams like, I'll shout out Robert Slack in Florida, they do 125 homes per week because they have hundreds of agents. They have systems dialed in. They're running Facebook ads, Google ads. They've got everything dialed in. So when I say half, I really mean half. It's just that most people, including us, we don't have the systems to facilitate that. And that's why it's a never-ending process of always working on the business, because your income is always going to be limited to your systems.
Really jump in on that one, because I'm sure people at first heard half and said like, well, I'm not closing half of the leads I'm getting from my team or that I'm generating. So obviously, it's very easy as a realtor to say the problem is the leads, the problem is the team, the problem is this, the problem is that. The problem is that you didn't call them back immediately and then try to get in touch with them 8 to 12 times. So if you're listening to this right now, 8 to 12 times, that's a lot of outbound phone calls, but that's what it takes to actually get a hold of people nowadays. So it's really, really good learning to know that just because half of them bought a house, it doesn't mean they're going to buy it from you as a realtor, unless you do all of the right things to make sure that you're the person they choose. So that conversion ratio, like that business is there. And so I see so many agents, and like I've been a team lead for a long time. I've worked with dozens of agents who say, oh, there's not enough leads or the leads suck. And I inevitably ask, okay, well, did you call them within the first 5 minutes of getting the lead? Yes, no, maybe so. Often the answer is no. And this lead that you said sucked, did you try to get a hold of them once or twice, or have you called them 8 to 12 times? Yeah, the answer is usually once or twice. So for those of you listening, I'm going to be blunt. Most of the time, it's not the leads that suck. It's your ability to service the lead that sucks. And if you want to improve the quality of the lead, you need to improve the quality of your connection and the speed of your connection to those leads. Now, on the other side of the coin, this is going to be, I think, our final takeaway for new realtors, because I think a lot of realtors, again, walk into the business with a rosy outlook of the TV shows, taking people for showings, writing offers, negotiations. It's all fun. It's all sexy. But Sagar, of those 100 leads, you're the one who's in the field. You're the one who's calling these people. How many of them are just not interested? They're busy. They're hanging up on you. They're telling you to go away. Like, they're just not into it. Like, get out of here. They're rushing you off the phone. You're hearing a hard click. And sometimes you're hearing swear words. How often does that happen?
That's a great question, James. And I know a lot of people are going to ask and say, Sagar, how many of them hang up on you or tell you to F off and, are just super rude? Before I answer the exact number, I'll give you a percentage because I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. But before I give you that, I do want to say something. When you're calling online leads, you're discussing with brand new clients, you don't know them yet. Your ability to introduce yourself on the call in the first 10 seconds will dictate a lot as to whether or not you'll actually convert the lead. So back to your point earlier, James, and even Will, is you both said that, hey, it's your speed to lead, it's your average contact attempts, which is 100% very, very important. At the same time, it's also, do you know how to convert this lead? A lot of new agents who may do Facebook ads themselves, they're like, I'll do it myself. They have 100 leads with zero clue on how do I even convert this lead, right? So that's also a huge factor in whether or not you're going to get a lot of leads who tell you to screw off, and you're going to get, high conversion. If you're really good at what you say, you might have a lot less of that. So the number I give you, James, based on that is going to be skewed. Obviously, Will and I have been doing this for about 2.5 years now, like you said, producing a high income.
Yeah, Sagar, I'm just gonna jump right in. So
Sure.
let me ask the question another way. Now that your skills are super dialed and you're making that great first introduction and you're really good at handling these leads, as a super duper awesome realtor on the phone, how many of those people are still that hang up, go away? And your first 3 or 4 weeks in the business, what was that percentage at? So let's start with brand new. This is brand new Sagar. He's got some sales skills. He's a pretty smooth talker, but you're not dialed in yet. You're calling these people. How many of those just crashed and burned?
Definitely half of them, 50%.
Half. I'm gonna say that one more time. 1/2, 50%. If you're a brand new realtor, even if you have pre-existing sales experience like Sagar did, 50% of the leads you talk to are going to go click. So we started with a rosy outlook of, in an optimal ideal scenario, 50% of these leads are buying, but you're not optimal yet. You have to learn, you have to start. So this is such a key takeaway, that these absolutely elite, top-notch, most successful brand new realtors in Edmonton were getting hung up on 50% of every call they were making at the start of the game. Whoa, that takes mental fortitude and consistency through challenge to be successful in this business. So I'll tell you, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because me 15 years ago with a landline going beep, beep, boop, boop, talking to people, yeah, I had actually a little embarrassing. I probably had more than 50% of people not want to talk to me. So your ability to push through that initial skill development where you're not good, and you're running into 50% of the time things are not going well because you're not good. If you can't push through that, you're not going to do very well. So here's the silver lining. After 2 years of skill development, after 2 years of persistent and consistent effort, after 2 years of developing and 2 years of practice, because every phone call you make is practicing for the next one. Now, about how many of those calls go into the crash and burn stage?
Yeah, if I say right off the bat, if the crash and burn stage, I would give a percentage of somewhere around that 15%. Maybe 20% still will have that crash and burn stage happen, James. But it's
Are you guys hearing that? 1 in 5 phone calls for someone who is at the top of the game. It doesn't ever go away. It just gets easier. So this part of the conversation is really getting me excited, because you're really seeing at an intimate level what it takes day in and day out to be a really good realtor. And you'll never see that on the TV shows. You're seeing it right now from these two guys starting in the industry.
I also want to quickly add in for the audiences, this just summarizes why it's so important to work with a team leader like James or ourselves. Work with a team who knows what it's like, who understands what it's like to call a lead from start to finish. and learn their scripts, learn the way they interact, take all of it, and it's free. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, he's got such a good point. I mean, this is one of the reasons teams are becoming more popular because, you know, for example, I sit with my team every week and they hear me making phone calls. And then I'm like, they're sitting right there next to me in the desk next to me. I'm listening to them making phone calls. As soon as the call clicks, I say, hey, can I give you some feedback on that call? We workshop the call in real time. And that just like your growth trajectory spikes when you've got someone super experienced polishing up your skill set one phone call at a time. So just another reason why like a team could be the right choice. So guys, let's wrap it up. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like my intention with this call for everybody watching was to just get a difference in perspective between, you know, what it looks like being 15 years in the industry versus what it looks like being brand new. There are a lot of differences in terms of technology, approach, time allocation, but I hope you guys saw a lot of similarities too, where you're 1 year in the business, you're 2 years in the business, success leaves clues. And the big credit to Will and Sagar is they've been paying attention to those clues and following those footsteps, which is why they've gotten so good so fast. So for everybody watching this, I hope this was really helpful. And if you're interested in adding online lead generation as part of your business plan, reach out to Will. Like I said, I can't say enough. There's no referral fee here. I'm just endorsing it because they're great guys. So there's no hidden agenda here. But if you're interested in online lead generation, reach out. If you like what we had to say, talk to us about our teams. And if you just learned something, hit the like button because we did this for you guys. So thanks to Will and Sagar for chatting with me this morning about what it takes to really excel as a realtor.